running backs who can not only run between the tackles, but catch passes out of the backfield, who you can line up in the slot and on the outside and have a nose for the end zone. Those guys are among the MVP candidates in football right now, the way the game has evolved. They once were considered MVP candidates, even when they couldn't catch passes out of the backfield. And now when you add that element to their game, and Le'Veon Bell is the number one back in the game, or the number one guy who plays that position, because often he's a receiver. He is an MVP candidate every year. Now, what a cap does, what a salary cap does in sports, is align the owner's interests with the fans, or the fans' interests with the owners. In other words, the less you pay the player, the better it is for the fan, because that means there's more money to go around to other players. Now, without the cap, you could pay that player what he's worth and other players what they're worth. But with the cap, you can't. And who gets shortchanged in this? It's the running back. The way the NFL salary structure that exists presently works is your rookie contract underpays you. That happens in a lot of industries. There are certain barriers to entry, hoops to jump through, union even scales where you get more as time goes on. After that rookie contract in the NFL, now you can get paid long term. And remember, the guaranteed money comes from how many years they think you'll be productive, because they prorate it over that number of years. Meaning they'll say, here's $50 million because we think it's $10 million a year for the next 5 years. If they only think you got 2 years ahead of you, that's $20 million instead of $50 million. Now, you're right, Stephen A., in a blue-collar town like Pittsburgh, million, as soon as you hear that, it's a lot of money, and I get it. But he is not being paid what he's worth. What they do now is they franchise him. They franchise him maybe 3 times altogether. It means he'll be making a lot of money in those individual years. If he stays healthy and it's a hurt game, you can get hurt at any time without a guaranteed contract, that's a problem. But once it's time for him to collect on his, big, you've used up all the franchise tags, I'm past my rookie contract, now I'm collecting, now I'm getting my huge guarantee. The team's going to come to him and say, you're 28 years old, we only think you have a year or 2 left, we're not going to give you a huge guarantee over a number of years. Running backs get screwed by the CBA in the NFL right now. That is the position more than any other that gets shortchanged. MVP caliber players at their best. Le'Veon Bell is the best and an MVP caliber player every year, but they will not be paid long-term like that, and they have shorter careers. Stephen A., because that is good for the fans, right, when you can shortchange a player, that's the reason I'm up here saying the Giants, my team, I love the Giants, should draft Saquon Barkley, because running backs hit the ground running, give you production right away, give it to you for 6-8 years, and you never really have to pay them.
But, Max, you lost me. What are you trying to say about Le'Veon Bell as it pertains to a villain's role in the city of Pittsburgh? What are you trying to say about that he's not the villain? Or that he's got to be careful? What are you saying?
No, he is well, I picked up where you left off, Stephen A., when you said leave it to members in the media to explain what's going on, and that's what I did. Sure. Le'Veon Bell will be perceived by the fans as a villain because his interest is opposed to their interest. Their interest is to make the Pittsburgh Steelers as good as possible. If you give a lot of money long-term to a running back, that hurts your team because he's not going to be good past the age of 29 or 30.
You're absolutely right, but all of that goes out the window and amounts to nothing if he keeps opening his mouth about this same subject. Because at some point the city is saying, we heard you. We understand what you're saying. We can't even deny that you're right, but enough's enough already. And that's what I think he has to be careful of, which is why I don't think he should say another word. The media, his agent, others, even Tomlin to a lesser degree, his teammates. You can do what you have to do to speak up for him. He does not need to speak up for him. You don't want somebody comparing him to Latrell Sprewell, who gets offered a $13 to $15 million contract years ago and says, I can't accept that. I got to feed my family. You don't want that kind of quote associated with your name.
Although Floyd Mayweather also called a contract offer of $2 million a year at a certain, or a fight at a certain point with like a guarantee of $12 million, a slave contract, and that's a poor choice of words, just as Latrell Sprewell's was in terms of feeding his family. But what Floyd Mayweather showed was, in fact, he was going to make 100 times that in a fight. So he actually turned out to be right. And Le'Veon Bell's point here, I believe, and he said it before, and we took it like, oh, come on, he's not serious. Hey, it's not just me. It's running backs generally, right? It's like players who play my position. He's right. If the running backs don't start chirping and start making noise and start causing a problem for people, because this is the same in every town, they will never be paid. They have to address this.